So welcome to the Tesla Power Podcast. This is where we're building the Tesla energy community. We're covering solar panels, solar roof, Powerwall for your home. I'm Aaron Brady, and today we're going to talk about Powerwall power capacity as opposed to energy capacity. Let's talk about permitting and interconnection applications. Let's ask, can we trust Texas? Let's also talk about the Tesla solar equipment reliability track record. And then let's look at a Tesla solar installation 1-year review and a lot more. Let's do it. So like we always do, we will kick off the podcast with community input. You can participate in a lot of ways. Of course, you can leave a comment below. You can call 203-816-5150, or you can email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. First up, we've got a question from D.A. Poppa, or this is a comment, really, a reply to one of my questions. He's got a small regret. Let's read it. Quote, we had an electrical fire. We had electrical, we had fire, we had city, stalled for update plans showing the changes. After that, we're going to be waiting for PTO. Other than this, the Tesla team was solid gold. The quality of the job done is sterling. And my only regret was not getting a second battery. We can just about go all night on one battery. It depends on how much AC runs at night. Florida is hot. We are on self-powered mode, so we're not able to take advantage of net metering just yet. Our first full month, we used 216 kilowatt hours from the grid instead of 1,880 kilowatt hours average used in May. Anyone who can afford to have solar installed should do it to secure your energy costs for the future. Tesla is awesome. Powerwall Plus is a good investment, end quote. And cheers to that. I've already seen tons of benefit from having our system, and I'm going to reiterate my assertion that all customers should get a minimum of 2 Powerwalls. And I say that not just as a matter of energy capacity, making sure you can make it through the night on one battery. I'm going to assert this based on a matter of power output. So if we take a look at the Powerwall 2 Plus spec sheet, I've got that pulled up here. This is the Powerwall 2. That's what I've got here at the house. It is capable of a max power output of 5 kilowatts, steady state, and then 7 kilowatts for only 10 seconds, right? So that's an extra 2 kilowatts. Now, this means that if I have a power outage while everything is on, with the AC running at 2 kilowatts, the pool pump running at another kilowatt, so that's 3 kilowatts, the oven, 4 kilowatts, the dryer pulling a 5th kilowatt, and then the microwave is on pulling another kilowatt. That would be 6 kilowatts. I would only have 10 seconds before tripping the battery and losing power completely. Now, it's an unlikely scenario, but it is possible. It's more likely it would be charging the car, which we have currently pulling 5 kilowatts. And then if we were running anything else, most likely the pool pump, that would trip the battery after only 10 seconds if we had one Powerwall. However, with 2 Powerwalls, we double that power capacity. That means our steady state peak power output from our pair of Powerwall 2 batteries is 10 kilowatts. And that's enough that we would basically never run into a scenario in which we would trip the batteries and lose power completely. Now, of course, Tesla is smart enough that if you've got a car, it's going to throttle your car charging to make sure that it won't trip the battery. You can see that here. And I've got all these links in the show notes, so if you want to go check these things out for yourself, you're welcome to do so. So even this scenario for me is a bit of an outside scenario, if I'm going to be honest, but it all depends on the energy needs of your home, of course, right? So back to energy capacity. I hear you that a single Powerwall is just not quite enough to get through the night with that AC on. So that's certainly the most compelling reason to get a second Powerwall in your scenario. Once getting net metering, though, you might as well use the grid as a battery, right? Save that Powerwall for emergency backup only. And I mean, specifically, I would expect that to extend the life of your Powerwall since you won't be cycling it every day. Net metering. It's a good deal if you can get it. I think it's too good to last, but let the good times roll for now. Congratulations on your Tesla Solar and Powerwall. I love that it's already making a difference in your electricity bills, right? That's why most of us are doing that in most cases. All right, next, Cody T has an observation on episode 59's conversation around changing your Tesla order. You'll remember that I had posited that canceling your Tesla order and starting from scratch might be the better way, but Cody T comments, I believe in most cases, depending on the city county, It's easier to get a re-permit on a project than it is to start the permit process from the beginning, end quote. And I believe you're correct. My reason, though, for thinking that canceling your order and starting from scratch might be better isn't to compensate for the municipality's deficit. It's to compensate for Tesla's deficit. So if Tesla doesn't have to, or if they don't have the capacity, right, to adjust permits or utility interconnect applications, like they couldn't for me, then end users get stuck in PTO purgatory, like I've been stuck in for more than a year. You know, the answer might have to be canceling the order with Tesla just to start that process all over again so permits and applications are filed correctly. And in a lot of cases, this seems to be automated. It seems to be happening in less than 24 hours. So I don't know. We can look to the wider community to see anecdotally what their experience is. I can't imagine that if you were going to start from scratch, it's going to take more than a year to get permits, for example, right? So overall, it will take a little bit more time either way, but presumably it's going to take less time to start the permitting from scratch than it will to get Tesla to get their act together and get the municipality and the utility the information they need to reschedule inspections and pass inspections. So it would be best for everyone if customers just took Tesla's original design. That's kind of a controversial hot take, probably. You know, if you take Tesla's original design and you don't make any changes along the way, then it's going to be smooth sailing from beginning to end. But those suggestions don't always fit in customers' budgets, unfortunately. But customers like me, we find the money when we discover that no batteries means no power from solar when the grid goes down. I mean, that just seems illogical to invest in that kind of infrastructure just to not be able to use it when you need it most, right? And often we don't figure that out until later in the process. I mean, it certainly was the case for me. In fact, it took a while before I figured out what was going on. It took until Tesla was here on site giving me the site walkthrough before I was like, oh, I need to change my order. So I would definitely, advocate Tesla being able to make changes to the process and being able to adjust drawings and applications. I don't know. This is all the whole reason for starting the podcast, right? Educate others before they make the same mistakes that I made. Cody T, thank you for pointing that out. Let's see if we can help Tesla residential energy customers from falling into the PTO purgatory trap like I did by getting Tesla to add a change loop for drawings and permits, right? That way, everyone can be in a better spot. Next best is to get customers just to move forward with Tesla's original design recommendation without modifying it. It's for the greater good, right? The greater good. Next, we've got Jones 1. He comments on a episode. This is episode 32, entitled Get As Many Powerwalls as Possible. Let's read it. Quote, I've only ordered one Powerwall. I wish I could get 2 or 3. I've ordered a 12 kilowatt system. Living in Texas, our current electricity rates are 11 cents to 18 cents per kilowatt on average. Prices are going up, and to trust the Texas grid is a big mistake. Even if our prices are lower than other states, ERCOT will tax the Texas grid to make, quote, improvements, they say. Another great video, RIP Jack, end quote. And I've got to say that 11 cents to 18 cents is pretty good. I mean, that's about half what we pay here in Connecticut and only a quarter of what peak rates can be in California. And RIP Jack, that's Jack Rickard. He really a stalwart, a genius in my estimation, way ahead of his time in solar adoption and EV adoption. He did tremendous things to educate me and the rest of the community. And that's pretty amazing. But you are correct that ERCOT is going to have to correct prices. They're going to have to make those prices rise in order to reinvest in their grid. And it's an inevitability. I can't even speak. But they've got to do 2 things. And this is because of the demographics of Texas. Number one, they've got to add capacity, right? And they've got to work to accommodate more renewables, just like the solar you installed. I mean, Texas is a growing state. There's net immigration into the state. So they're going to have to add capacity just for added population. But Texas is an interesting grid. It's, already got a significant amount of renewable wind capacity. It's a growth state, as I just mentioned. So they're having to add capacity to serve all of its new residents. And it's a new manufacturing capacity state. Think Starbase, think Giga Texas, just to name a couple of random examples. As we frequently discuss on this channel, Texans aren't the types of people to leave their destiny in the hands of anyone but themselves. And I've said before, it's that rugged individualism that's made this country great, and it continues to make Texas a great state. And I hear you that you don't want to just trust that ERCOT will take care of you. You've taken your destiny into your own hands by installing solar with a battery, and it'll serve you well. Congratulations on placing your order. Curious, did you use a referral link? You can, of course, save $300, currently offered in the referral program. For those of you that are watching that are looking to place an order, I do put my referral link in the show notes. Use that link. If you click on it to place your order, you'll see that your credit rolls up in the price as you're going through checkout and placing your deposit for the order. And Jones 1, keep us posted as you walk through the process so we can share it with the wider community. We want to celebrate with you when your system goes live. All right, next, we've got Marty Edwards. He's back with a quick update on his system. Quote, still not working on the 8.6 kilowatt array. Tesla Powerwalls and array are no problem. End quote. And I mean, this just sucks. I mean, I don't even know how else to put it. If I remember correctly, it's a Solar Edge optimizer that's crippling the system at the moment. But my question is still, like, did Tesla install that? I guess not, but Tesla did install Solar Edge equipment right after the Solar City transition, so I think it's at least possible. I don't know. I would say at very least it's a vote of confidence for Tesla hardware and architecture. The new Tesla inverters directly and their string inverter, which is kind of an old technology, is proving to be quite reliable. And, of course, the best service is no service, meaning it's best if the equipment never needs to be serviced in the first place. So it's just, I would say, very unusual to hear of third-party installers not offering excellent customer service. And, I mean, that's really another reason why I think Tesla might have been the ones that installed this. I don't know. I don't know. Let us know how you resolve this. It would really be helpful to share with the rest of the community, of course. All right. Next is a comment from Alan Autens. He gives us some great data on 1 year of Tesla solar. Let's read it. We are going to start. It has been 1 year since my 4.08 kilowatt Tesla solar panels without a Powerwall were placed in service at the western side of my coastal Southern California home. The solar panels generated 6,400 kilowatts for the year, which is 500 kilowatts more than Tesla projected, which is kind of cool. I used 3,900 kilowatts of the 6,400 kilowatts generated, with the remaining 2,500 kilowatts as excess generation. Now, Southern California Edison, that's SCE, calls the excess generation net energy surplus. SCE pays 4 cents per kilowatt for the net energy surplus. Therefore, I should be receiving a $100 refund check from SCE. I had no net payments to SCE for the year. Rather, I received a refund of $50. That's 140 non-bypass charges, less $90 California climate credit, less the $100 net energy surplus refund. So my net cost for the solar panels was $6,000, and my payback period is 5 years, which is awesome. I'm getting delivery of a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle next month to better utilize the net energy surplus. I expect to be able to drive about 6,000 miles per year from the 2,500 kilowatt excess generation. I expect that this will reduce my payback period from 5 years to 3 years. Keep up the good work, end quote. I am impressed, super impressed that you use so little electricity. I mean, of course, you're probably not using any electricity for heat or for AC, right? Since you're there on the beautiful California coast. I love that you are putting that surplus energy to use in a plug-in hybrid. You'll save on gas, which is a pretty penny these days in California, and you'll be getting better value out of the electricity than 4 cents per kilowatt hour you're going to get from Southern California Edison. In fact, it'll be way more value than you save by not buying electricity from the grid. So if we say a tank of gas is $100 and you currently fill up once a month, then you're going to save $1,200 a year rather than getting a measly $100 rebate from your utility at the end of that same year. So smart, so smart. Really, really impressed. And then overall, with a payback period of only 3 years, honestly, I don't see how this isn't done by everybody. I mean, it makes all the sense. Thanks for sharing. Great info. Thank you to DA Poppa, to Cody T, Jones 1, Marty Edwards, Alan Autens, all of you for your input. Such good detail. Really good insight. Thank you guys very much. Let's hear from the rest of you too. Send in your YouTube links, comment below, call 203-816-6150, or you can email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into So this episode, we have just a couple of full stories to cover. I've got some that I want to talk about, but I can't get to them because they're behind a paywall. But I think that they fit into a nice, larger story of historical significance. So we're going to at least mention them, even though we can't get into the articles themselves. I still do put a link down below in case you happen to be subscribers to those services. So anyway, that's going to be those couple of headlines that roll into a wider story as well. So first up, we have a story from PV Magazine. They're reporting on a net metering compromise in North Carolina. Let's read it. Quote, Duke Energy and a collective of some of the largest rooftop solar installers in North Carolina have officially come to terms on a modified version of Duke Energy's Solar Choice net metering proposal, one which pushes the utility's proposed time of use rates for net metering customers down the road until at least 2026. The settlement agreement now means that this finalized version of Duke Energy's Solar Choice net metering proposal, which was originally filed on November 29, 2021, will now go before the North Carolina Utilities Commission for final approval. Once approved, the new net metering tariffs, known as the proposed bridge rate, will go into effect for customers submitting applications through December 31st, 2026, subject to annual capacity caps. Customers who choose to enter a residential solar installation into the proposed bridge rate may do so for up to 15 years, subject to certain limitations, end quote. I mean, all of this amounts to net metering won't die as quickly in North Carolina, but make no mistake, it will eventually die everywhere, not just in North Carolina. Now, Duke Energy, they're well within their right to move forward with the originally agreed upon and deftly branded choice net metering proposal, which is actually not net metering. But, this is moving to a model that's closer to an export tariff rate. What do they call it? A proposed bridge rate. Their original value proposed was, I think it's 2.68 cents. Which isn't nothing, but it definitely isn't the same thing as netting out to zero. I mean, most people are paying retail rates that are above 10 cents. So it'd be less than a third of a retail rate on average. And some, of course, have much worse rates or much higher rates. So this bridge rate is only slightly higher at 3 cents per kilowatt hour. So that does give them another 30% value, but it's still peanuts in comparison to the retail rates. So the real win is that consumers' minimum bill will not be raised to $22 per month until 2027 because the overall value is going to be that per month charge that you have to pay to stay connected to the grid. It's a compromise for sure, and kudos to all parties for getting this done for utility customers in North Carolina. Love to hear people making compromises these days. I think it's an important thing. All right, next, we've got Bloomberg. They report on residential solar in Spain. Quote, the rush, I'm sure we have it a little bit further down. Here we go. The rush for the rooftops comes amid soaring energy prices across Europe and a host of new financial incentives by the Spanish government to encourage homeowners to invest in cleaner technology, end quote. Now, we're not just talking about energy prices here. We're talking about energy security, right? Spain is looking to reduce its reliance on foreign energy by boosting domestic solar production, and homeowners are going to benefit through this transition. They are going to be the ones getting the incentives to install solar, reducing their payback period, and as a result, they'll get lower energy bills once the systems are paid off. Win for Spain, win for Spaniards. We've already seen this in small island nations and states, Hawaii, for instance. Most of these islands have to import 100% of their energy, literally in the form of oil and natural gas on boats, but installing solar and batteries give them energy independence and stabilized electricity prices for those residents because they're not subject to fluctuating oil prices, right? And natural gas prices. Now, we're seeing this play out in a larger nation and state basis, not just in small residential states. But I would say Hawaii is quite sizable. Spain, much bigger than Hawaii. And we will see way more of this as oil investment slows. And honestly, even probably stops. I mean, oil isn't ever going to go away. There's always going to be a use case for oil, but the investment in making it a cheap and accessible resource is going to taper over the next decade, 2 decades. And all of that is in anticipation of the transition to renewable energy. And because of less investment in oil, supply is going to go down. And in the interim, that means prices are going to have to go up. And that will accelerate the need for governments to transition into renewable energies. So what I love about this approach for Spain is that it's directly benefiting residents rather than benefiting utilities and corporations. I accept that residents need to be able to afford to participate. And as a result, that disproportionately benefits wealthier residents. But it's just one part of a bigger move that Spain's getting their wealthier residents to contribute to, right? So it's almost like a higher tax on them, even though it's a little bit of an incentive. So it does matter on your perspective. I love that wealthier residents are putting up the majority of the capital to invest in this transition to renewable energy. I think that's a win for everybody. All right, let's read the next story. This one is from Electrek. They report on reduced referral reward for the solar roof, which we've been talking about here. Let's read it. Quote, "It's been tweaking the referral program for solar products. While it was only for solar roof installations at first, Tesla added solar panel installations back to its referral program with a $300 reward per installation late last year, which I've been letting you guys know about here. Now Tesla is reducing the $500 reward for solar roof referrals to match the reward for solar panel installations," end quote. Now, generally, reduction in the referral reward is an indication that they do not need to stimulate demand as much. And this might indicate then that they have similar ability to meet current demand for both solar roof and solar panels, but that they have extra capacity for both. Right? If they have that extra capacity, they need to stimulate demand a little bit. But I mean, we've been getting really mixed messages here. Tesla had supply chain issues that paused installations for both solar roof and solar panels earlier this year. If they can't install for current demand, do they really need to stimulate demand with a referral program? So I'm not sure what's going on here. If it's a demand issue, if it's a supply issue and not a demand issue, then it definitely doesn't make sense. But if we look at Tesla's financials for the last 2 quarters, we see that Tesla Energy is, still like a super tiny part of the overall Tesla business when compared, especially to automotive. Automotive's been kicking rumpus. On that basis, it seems to make sense that they would need to stimulate demand to help it grow as fast as the automotive business. But Tesla affirms that they are continuing to incentivize the automotive business over the energy business. And when they're supply constrained, they'll direct resources away from Tesla Energy. So what I would say, they probably still need to make sure that demand for Tesla Energy products is there when supply is available. And so they're using this referral program to help ensure that that demand is in the pipe. I don't know. Let the good times roll, I guess. You can find my referral link in the show notes below. If you're looking to place your order, use my referral code and you can get $300 on your order, or credited to your order for solar roof or solar panels. All right, next, the New York Times focused on residential contribution of solar and battery storage in Hawaii. Now, this is the one that is paywalled, so I can't read it for you, but what I can do is read it to you, or you can't read it yourself, I guess. I can read it to you. So we have the article, just pulling it up here to make sure I can read it. Yeah, so Cody Nakagawa, who lives in a suburb of Honolulu, has spent years battling her family's high electricity bills, which once topped $500 a month. She was gradually buying more solar panels after accumulating more than 70 panels and 3 stacks of batteries. She's gotten her family's monthly bill just down to just $26. Ms. Nakagawa is not alone. Nearly a third of Hawaii's single-family homes have rooftop solar panels, more than twice the percentage in California. And officials expect that many more homes will add panels and batteries in the coming years, end quote. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up is that this is going to be a more and more important story and a bigger story as the transition to renewables progresses. We can see in the capital markets that capital is no longer flowing to fossil fuel companies for investment, That means there's no longer going to be new investment into fossil fuel capacity. They're not going to be drilling more wells. They're not going to be exploring for more oil or shale deposits. And that means that prices for fossil fuels are going to go up, especially through the transition as demand isn't really decreasing that much. But those prices will eventually decline as fossil fuel demand meets capacity, but it might take 10 years to stabilize, and we'll see lots of volatility in fuel prices in the meantime. So the very best way to protect yourself from high fuel prices, solar and batteries. And that's where the most vulnerable populations are looking during this transition. Island nations and states that must import 100% of their fossil fuel energy, they are incentivizing this kind of behavior, not just as government programs, but because the residents themselves are feeling the market pressure to invest in renewables. And as a result, we will see them transition more quickly to renewables than those nations and states that can provide their own fossil fuel energy or have access to import it at reasonable prices, at consistent prices. So this won't just be at the residential level, of course. You'll remember, in fact, there was a project in Kauai with solar and power packs that was featured back in 2017. Let me play that video. So this video was produced to promote a project as a leading indicator of what we were going to see in the coming years. And spoiler alert, just 5 years later, we find ourselves further along the path, but we still have a long way to go. Batteries are the main constraint at the moment, but we see battery manufacturing capacity investment essentially everywhere we look. And that is super encouraging. But I hear plenty that are asserting that this transition won't be quick. I don't know. I can't tell if they're right or they're not right. It's going to be painful, I think. And those that can get on the front edge of it are going to feel less pain than others. I am sure they're right in some respects. It's going to be a little slower in some places. Though, it's just impossible to tell, I think, at this period, especially as the S-curve gets steeper. Those kinds of transitions, they might shift by a few months, but once they happen, it's like turning on a switch. So it only took a couple of decades to transition from steam and horse economy to a fossil fuel economy in the early 1900s. But let's not forget, Tesla's already been working on this since 2003, and it's only now high profile enough to be making a significant difference toward this end. I mean, that's already the 20 years to get this far. So I don't know that it'll be able to complete this transition in only 10 more years or even get a majority of the way there. I also expect there's going to be an error, or I would say that it's going to be an error to expect that all fossil fuel applications will disappear. There's just some applications in which fossil fuels make more sense. And all that is going to muddy the waters when trying to define where the transition completes. Don't forget, reading, people use ebooks now, but does that mean that physical books have gone away? No. Was there a massive transition to reading digital content rather than printed content? For sure. But it doesn't mean that that printed content has gone away. Not by a long shot. It just grows the overall market. It doesn't preclude it or debase it fully. What I will say is coming clear is that the transition's accelerating, and that those that are looking to make the transition more quickly will have more reliable energy at more stable prices. That's the bottom line. All right, let's read the next story. This one is from Bloomberg. So this is another one that is behind a paywall. I did get the first Bloomberg story for free, but I don't get the second one. But we're back to Bloomberg to lean further into the energy security for island nations and states. So let me read that one to you. We're at story 5. Story 5 for today. Quote, why tiny solar projects play an outsized role in powering Puerto Rico. Adoption of rooftop solar panels has surged on the Caribbean island as it contends with high energy costs and frequent outages, end quote. If only I could read, right? Now, since Hurricane Maria ravaged Puerto Rico back in 2017, when that video was made, incidentally, they've been struggling to get reliable electricity to the population. You might also remember that the utility was woefully underfunded even before the hurricane. And all that was a result of poor governance. And probably more crucially, a change in the federal tax code that saw most of its medical manufacturing leave the island. If you don't have money, you can't pay for stuff, right? In the years since, just like Hawaii, Puerto Rico has been moving to residential solar with batteries to control energy costs and regain energy security. The kicker here is that it's also contributing to the reliability of the overall grid. Now, we talk a lot about virtual power plants in this channel for good reason. It provides a lot of the value-add services more quickly and efficiently than any other asset on the grid. Like when the frequency drops on a grid, they have traditionally relied on physical generators to adjust the speed at which they rotate and the frequency that's then generated from that physical asset, which takes time to communicate the need and then time to physically adjust the generator to effect the required change. Batteries can respond automatically and instantaneously to provide the same service. When the grid sees load increase dramatically and additional capacity is required, they had traditionally called workers to fire up a gas peaker plant to meet that load, which could take up to an hour to spin up. Batteries can respond automatically and instantaneously to provide capacity to serve that load. I mean, it's just a better system, you know? And, these are the benefits that residential solar and battery installations are providing for the Puerto Rico grid. So this is driven by residential adoption. And it's these benefits that virtual power plants are already offering to grids here in the mainland and in Australia and in the UK as part of Octopus Energy. And eventually it'll be part of most modern renewable grids, full stop. That'll do it for news. Let's take another quick break. When we come back, we'll get into the featured video. So this podcast will take a look at a recent installation and see what's special about it. This one is from American Home Contractors. They're back with a great wrap-up video on their latest Tesla solar roof installation in Virginia. Let's watch.
Something really unique to this project was this chimney in this valley. Why? Because if you were working with traditional panels, you wouldn't be able to mount around them. It'd be a lot more difficult. With Tesla solar tiles, you can actually get right up next to them with a bunch of active tiles, which inevitably is more energy production and a larger system size for your home. This is why we love Tesla solar roof, because of regular obstructions and whatnot on the roof, like this pipe and this vent right here. You can actually fit those active tiles right up next to it. Something that traditional panels fail to have, and a complete roofing solution like Tesla solar roof offers. This is why we love it.
And in many cases, those vents can simply be cut off, so it's no longer even breaking up the roof line at all. I covered this in episode 23 if you want to go have a look. And it's obvious how dividing the panels into smaller tiles gets you more production. And it's more true now that tiles are at the 72 watt power capacity rather than the 58 watts they were originally. With the lower wattage, the tiles took about 50% more space. But with the higher wattage, the energy density is only about 15% less for the solar roof, so the additional area they can cover can make a material difference, potentially even increasing the overall capacity for the area available. So, of course, you'll pay a premium for equivalent capacity if you get the solar roof over solar panels, but, beauty is an option, and beauty is something that often people will want to pay a premium for. I mean, we certainly did here at our house. All right, I want to take a look at production over the last couple of weeks. We have, of course, been having pretty mild days. So I'm just spinning up the app now so I can switch over to the Tesla app to check how much production we've had. Today has been absolutely miserable for production and miserable for weather, right, as a result. All right, I believe we have it up. There we go. And if we go into energy generated today, only 11 kilowatt hours, which isn't even enough to run our pool pump for the day. I mean, this summer has been super mild, but for some days we've still had some good sun. So if we go back, like yesterday, we produced 67 kilowatts, which is awesome, almost 60 kilowatts the day before, and 60 kilowatts the day before that. But if we compare that to our usage, you can see we're using more than we're producing at the moment. By a small margin, so we're getting pretty close, but a lot of that is because of charging the car and, of course, running the air conditioner. I mean, that's always the big hog. You'll see that there's a pretty low base load. It gets up to about 3 kilowatts. That's the pool pump at full speed. We now have a variable speed pump, so that pump gets down below a kilowatt at its base use. Of course, you've got to run that every day to keep the pool chlorinated and healthy. Let's head over to my brother-in-law's system. We can see today, you know, he's also not generating very well. He's only got about 10.2 maybe of generation today. And you'll see that he is tracking, you know, at 60 and above 60, which we were as well. But you can see he's getting pretty close to 80 in some instances. So he's starting to outproduce us a little bit as of today. And if we look at his production curve, you can see those different spikes as the cloud cover changes. Again, he's only around the corner, so his curves are going to look quite similar to ours. What's very different, though, about our inverter setup is that it can start producing electricity through the inverter at a lower sun level. So even though it's cloudy today, we're able to make energy with that lower light production when they aren't able to. So that's why we're slightly outproducing them today. Anyway, let's look at some other stuff. I mean, the utility bills I did want to point out. So utility bills, we have been clearly getting net metering. We've been pulling more from the grid this month, but we're still netting out to just the connection charge. And that's odd because we still don't have PTO. So there was something about the last witness test that changed on the utility side, which I don't know if that should make me nervous or excited. I really don't know. I just don't know how it's working without PTO. I'll take it. Just hoping I don't end up getting in trouble for all of this. I have followed up on PTO, but I still haven't heard back. I know this is peak season for booking witness tests, so a delay is probably expected. And since I'm now getting net metering, I mean, I've got all the patience in the world, right? I'm not saying it's great, but it is what it is. And now, or that will do it for episode 61 of the Tesla Power Podcast. Please use my referral code. You can save yourself $300 on solar roof and $300 on solar panels. If you click on that link, that's ts.la/Aaron62310. Place your order, and you'll see it rolled up in the pricing. And I'm Aaron Brady, your residential energy community organizer. Let's do this again on the next video.